Developing now, lawmakers at the state Senate have passed a 12-week ban on abortion right along party lines. Tonight, we're answering your top questions about the ban. Plus,
We don't get it! Shut it down!
Screenwriters on strike from coast to coast, what they're fighting for and how it's impacting programming you watch every single day. And
I'm still doing research with scholarships and money and seeing what programs I can do once I get to the school to get more money.
figure out how they can afford to further their education. Let's dig into it. Happening right now, there are lots of questions floating around as lawmakers in Raleigh passed a ban on abortion after 12 weeks.
now this is a developing story with the vote just taking place at the General Assembly. So we're going to answer several of your top questions one by one. We're going to start with, where does the bill stand right now? We have a better idea of where it stands. It just happened about 30 minutes ago. The state Senate passed the bill. Now this comes after the House passed it earlier this week. Governor Roy Cooper says he will veto the bill, but Republicans have a supermajority in the General Assembly and will likely override the governor's veto, meaning the ban is likely to become law very soon.
So the big headline for the bill is that it takes the deadline for elective abortions from 20 weeks down to 12 weeks. But one viewer wants to know, how did Republicans decide on 12 weeks? Why not a full ban? Here's one of the bill's sponsors from Forsyth and Stokes County.
Roe was decided in the 1970s. There have been countless medical achievements that have made it possible for babies to survive earlier than the viability standard that was set by Roe. It's time for North Carolina to take the next step forward in honoring the sanctity of human life. We look at what most North Carolinians have said. This is where most of them come down, where 57% thought 12 weeks was where it should be.
Okay, we tracked that poll down that she mentioned to the Carolina Partnership for Reform. They're a conservative-leaning group that surveyed 500 people. A nonpartisan Meredith College surveyed more than 900 people. They found the opposite. 57% of respondents either wanted to expand abortion beyond the current 20-week limit or maintain the law, so abortion can be accessed up until 20 weeks. Only 9% of people surveyed said they wanted to make abortion illegal after 15 weeks.
All right, so we took a look at the timeline for when a woman could get an abortion, but another viewer wants to know, how does the bill change the process of getting an abortion? All right, so first, let's go over with what stays the same. The state bill follows the current state law when it comes to the abortion pill. A doctor still would have to examine a woman in person. A telemedicine visit over the internet does not count. The doctor also has to do a screening to make sure the woman is not being forced into an abortion. Here's where the bill changes things. It becomes illegal for an abortion pill manufacturer or supplier to mail the drug directly to a pregnant woman without a plan in place for her to take with the doctor's guidance. It also becomes illegal for anyone to advertise on the internet how to work around these requirements and get the pill easier. Anyone caught doing that would have to pay up to $5,000 per advertisement.
Digging deeper, the bill also changes some rules about consent for abortion. Under this plan, the doctor has to get informed consent at least 72 hours before the abortion. If the patient is a minor, their guardians have to sign off. Also, except for cases of medical emergency, the doctor has to give a real-time view of the fetus to the woman at least 4 hours before the abortion is performed. The doctor must display the images in a place where the woman can see them and give an explanation of what is on the screen. Now, the woman does have the right to refuse to hear the explanation and not look at the screen, but they have to sign a certificate saying the process was done.
Now, the doctor also has to provide materials written by the State Department of Health and Human Services that outlines other options for the woman, including places to get pregnancy care and how to find an adoption agency. The brochures would also show what a fetus looks like when the abortion would be performed. Now, the law is very clear that the materials should be objective, non-judgmental, and designed to convey only accurate scientific information about the unborn child at the various gestational ages.
That leads to the next question from a viewer. What is a fetus like at 12 weeks old? According to the Mayo Clinic, a 12-week-old fetus is a little bit larger than George Washington on the dollar bill. The fetus is starting to develop fingernails and the face is getting a little more chiseled in the profile. The organs and bones are also formed, and by 12 weeks you should be able to hear the fetus's heartbeat. In order to find out how big the impact of this new law is, one viewer wants to know, how often do people get abortions after 12 weeks? The CDC tracks abortion records across the country. In 2020, in North Carolina, there were 29,636 reported abortions. 94% of them were performed before or at week 12. Meaning 1,894 abortions were performed after week 12 and could possibly be impacted by this proposed law. Possibly because there are still certain exceptions. Abortions in the case of rape or incest will be allowed up to 20 weeks. Abortions for life-limiting abnormalities to the baby will be allowed up to 24 weeks. And there would be no time limit on abortions if the mother's life is at risk. It's hard to know if these exceptions would have impacted the women getting abortions after 12 weeks because the CDC does not track the reason people get abortions by the week that they get them.
All right, another News 2 viewer asked, could women still go to other states for an abortion? Well, unlike new abortion restrictions in other parts of our country, there is nothing in this North Carolina bill that would try to prohibit women from leaving North Carolina for an abortion. As for where women would probably go, abortion is still legal in South Carolina up to 22 weeks and in Virginia up through week 26.
Remember, this bill is not law yet. Governor Roy Cooper has said he plans to veto it, and it will have to pass a veto override vote, which is expected since Republicans have that supermajority in Raleigh. As this whole process plays out, more questions are sure to pop up. If there's something you want to know about the abortion bill, text us. It's 336-379-5775.